As we go into 2024, staffing, do we have enough people in the industry? Do we not have enough? Both sides are saying one way or the other. We talk about that and much more with an expert on this episode of The Crude Truth.
In 1901, at Spindletop Hill near Beaumont, the future of Texas changed dramatically as, like a fountain of fortune, thousands of barrels of oil burst from the earth towards the sky. Soon, Detroit would be cranking out Model Ts by the millions, and America was on the move, thanks to the black gold being produced in Texas. Now, more than a century later, the vehicles are different, but nothing else has truly changed. Sure, there may be many other alternative energy sources like wind and solar and electric. But let's be honest, America depends on oil and entrepreneurs, and if the USA is truly going to be independent, it has to know the crude truth.
NAPE is a proud sponsor of The Crude Truth. Be sure to register for the NAPE Expo 2024, February 7th through the 9th at the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston, Texas. Hurry and register today. NAPE, where deals happen.
This episode is brought to you by LFS Chemistry, committed to being good stewards of the environment and providing the tools so you can be too. NAPE Expo, where deals happen. Air Compressor Solutions. When everything is on the line, Air Compressor Solutions is the dependable choice to keep commercial business powered up. Sandstone Group. Exec Crew. Elevate your network, elevate your knowledge. Oil and Gas Workers Association. Pecos Country Operating. Fueling our future.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the time of day it is. Thank you as always for tuning in to another episode of The Crude Truth. As I've mentioned here on an earlier episode this year already, I have just some great co-hosts this year as we go into 2024, and today is no exception. We do have another great co-host. Today, my co-host, hails all the way from Odessa. Get it right. He is with American Safety Services. My guest today is the man, the host of Tallybook Troubleshooting, Keith Stelter. Keith, how are you?
I am doing great. It's always fun to be here. And, this is my second time doing the show with you. First time as a co-host. I'm very excited. You mentioned earlier you're going to have an expert on talking about staffing. I'm clearly not the expert on staffing by any means, but as a guy who hangs out in West Texas, I've seen, what the industry's going through right now, and it's definitely got challenges in people, professional people in particular. Like, it really is a need for engineers or, superintendents, inspectors. So I'm very interested in what actually, before I introduce myself, I got to say it's your guest is the first guy I ever introduced or interviewed on my show, Tallybook Troubleshooting. So I'm the co-host of Tallybook Troubleshooting. It's a little LinkedIn show, and for whatever reason, somebody tunes in every once in a while on LinkedIn and watches what I have to say. And I've had the privilege to, interview some really great people, from Top Gun instructors to survivors of plane crashes to recently a guy who is credited with saving over 30,000 people in the military with his military dog Dingo. I've had some really great folks, and I think it keeps me employed. I think at some point, getting out there, it definitely gets me in the door to talk to a few folks. And currently, the chief strategy officer of American Safety Services. We're the largest service company or safety service company in the Permian right now, with offices in Odessa and Artesia, New Mexico. And happy that they gave me the time off. Kevin, thank you, sir. We'll tell you that I showed up here later. I don't know if you know I'm here right now. So. Forgiveness is definitely better sometimes than permission, but excited, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. You're here at the different studios today, but thank you so much for co-hosting with me.
This is a fancy place you got.
It's fun. We enjoy it. But you were talking about the great people you've had on your show. As you know, I've had great people on my show. And today, again, our guest today is no different, Keith. Our guest today is somebody that has probably been known around the state of Texas now for probably over a decade. He is doing things just from a personal level to a political level to a career level. He is currently in the Houston area, and I think it's Sweetwater. But our guest today is now with NSB Omega, which is one of the biggest staffing companies. Our guest today is the one, the only Drew Ludlow. Drew, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing real well. Thanks for having me today.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for coming into town. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's my honor. Thank you very much. And Keith, always a pleasure, buddy.
Hey, yeah, I remember that first episode we did. I think it's like almost 3 years ago to the day. And
Yes, sir.
it's come a long way. I can't believe we're here sitting in these chairs doing something like it again. But, you know, he mentioned that you're known through Texas. You're known worldwide, right? You're from hanging out with Netanyahu in Israel to working offshore around the world. You're a guy in the know. So looking forward to your new endeavor. What do you got going on these days?
Well, it's been a real honor, Keith, and thank you very much for asking. It's been a lot of countries, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice, traveling around the world, developing the most challenging oil and gas projects the world has to offer, from lassoing icebergs up in Greenland to fighting different Greenpeace organizations in and around the world, Falkland Islands, swelling seas, Equatorial Guinea and the malaria, Ivory Coast and the Ebola. I've done it, and there's some great stories and great memories there. It's
Friendly kidnapping is always one of my favorites. No, we don't need to get into that. We don't have to.
There's a difference between friendly kidnapping and hostile kidnapping. I prefer the friendly kidnapping.
They serve you beer, I heard, when they do it friendly.
As long as the bills get paid. As long as the bills get paid. But no, it's been a great career. I've been very, very fortunate to work for some great oil field greats, and this is no different where I'm at now. I have the ability to serve people, and that's really what I love to do the most. I love to connect people and really help get into their lives and understand not just what their dogs' names are or their wife's birthday or kids' birthdays, but really how I can assist them on finding a career and landing that dream job with a major operator that we have contracts with. So most of your projects, from some of the most difficult projects up in Newfoundland, the Hibernia project, a lot of the Cenovus and Exxon projects we're a part of. We're down in Guyana, we're over in Norway, we're over down in Australia. We've got a great presence. Our company's name is NSB Omega. We were founded about 40 years ago on a personnel and software side of things. I think a lot of the operators are probably familiar with the PIMS software.
Yeah.
That's software that we compete with. And we have great software that your majors, Phillips 66, Exxon, Cenovus, and many others are currently using today. I specialize in the staffing, and contingent staffing is really where I specialize. So we have a software side of things. I'm the head of the U.S. Contingent workforce side of things, and it's been really neat to work on this side of the business because I'm able to not only help my clients, but I'm able to help the people of this industry as well. And it puts food on the table for families, and that's what makes me most proud.
Well, you know, when you moved to this, I was kind of caught off guard, but it sounds like you just answered my question, which is what made you want to make this change? Because again, you just literally, and you were just riffing everything that you've been doing for the last decades.
Yeah.
What a change that you just made to go into this side of the industry. And it's like, what was it? And I'm sure you probably had a talk with God about it at one point too.
God, my fiance, Mr. Stelter. So dealing in energy and dealing with the relationships in this industry, it's a very relationship-based industry. And I had relationships based on the operator side of things and then also on the personnel side of things. And so as a representative, a global agent, I was always able to identify holes in organizations that needed to be filled, whether it's a drilling manager or a drilling engineer or a control specialist. I had access to those people, and not just people, some of the best people in the industry, because they worked with me on some of the most challenging projects that this energy industry has to offer. So they became my friends, and being able to assist them and get them positioned and placed into major operators, major projects, and provide money for them and their family. It's just a true honor.
I mean, I think it's just so cool what you're doing. And, again, in my teaser, we talked about the staffing side of things. And here you are, you're not only, and I know you oversee the United States, but you and your company are also helping place people across the world. And how cool is that? And, are y'all having trouble finding people, or are y'all having trouble fill those positions right now?
Bringing up a really good point. We do staff projects all over the world. Obviously, I run the U.S. operations, but I have visibility of projects really everywhere. Currently, I'm staffing for 4 positions in Romania for a 2.5-year project on the Black Sea deep water. If this is something that you'd be interested in, Ray has my contact details, and I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me out there. Please reach out to me. We have a great database at nsbomega.com. We have over 1 million candidates right now in that database to fill these positions, but we're always looking for more talented people, because as pensions start to kind of go down and people want to retire, we're able to actually capture that retirement and capture that pension. You can come to work for NSB Omega. We'll employ you into the same position that you're currently in with your operator, and you're able to continue to work, making the same money that you are, and also capturing your pension so that you're not working for free. So often now, if you've worked for 25, 30 years and you see your pension going down, it's time to retire. And the reason it's time to retire is because you're working for free. And oftentimes, through a small calculation, we can show you this sweet spot of when it would be the best time for you to retire, to capture the most money and get you transitioned to an NSB Omega employee and get you full-time working at the same job you're doing currently.
Do you keep, networking for customers is obviously important because that's what pays the bills, but how much networking are you doing with your own candidates that are in that system waiting to go to make sure that you are supplying quality guys? You know what I mean? It's one thing to someone applies and says, I got 20 years experience doing X, Y, Z. What's the kind of relationships that you guys build with your candidates?
Yeah, really good. So we can network through our candidates into the operator. We can network through the operator to find candidates. We can work with the operator and they'll name candidates, and we can go out and find those candidates and bring them in as employees of ours. I'll use Oxy, for example. I'll name drop Oxy. So oftentimes Oxy's handcuffed by, they only have a certain amount of a budget in their AFE, and their AFE has been tapped, so they cannot employ any more people. They have to go out for a contingent or external workforce. This is where we come in, not only with our people, but we can also do all of the HR and back office items, benefits, FICA, FUTA, SUTA, and all of the compliance and regulatory things, with each state being different regarding, HR regulatory compliance. So we comply with all of those bodies, and we'll do all of that reporting for you. So really, it's a one-stop shop. We can network really any way, Keith, to skin the cat. We can work it forwards, backwards, forwards. We can work with a budget and work within that box. We can tell you a budget so that you can create your AFEs. We're very flexible and happy to help in any way that we can.
When you were talking about that you guys are worldwide, there's so many things going on right now. And you mentioned Guyana. Right now, that's the newest find. That's the hottest play as far as world oil goes down there in South America.
Yeah.
Are y'all having any issues with what's going on with Venezuela? Do you have people that are not wanting to go down there, or do you have more people that are willing to go down there right now with just all the uncertainties that are going on down in that way right now? What are y'all seeing around the world as far as the different conflicts go?
Yeah. I always say go where the danger is. That's where the pay is the most. The hazard pay, and these operators treat you really well. And coming from a guy who's been kidnapped a few times, it's not that bad.
Wait,
It's not that bad.
hold on, wait. There's a few times in there.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's a few stories there.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna get on
gosh.
a side. You might tell one if you're.
We'll tell the stories after the
There you go. After the but yeah.
From a safety standpoint, I've been able to navigate 50 countries and drill wells in those 50 countries. There's always been a little bit of dicey situations. How this is going to play out, I personally believe it's a publicity stunt. Nobody's going to go in and tell ExxonMobil what they can and can't do after they found oil. That's against all international law. Unfortunately, what it does is it destabilizes a great program that has a lot of teeth and a lot of growth marching up through 2028, dealing with Alistair and the team down in Guyana. It's a long growth play, and we believe strongly in the market. We have great leadership down in Guyana, and we have contracts with all the operators down there. So if Guyana is somewhere that you want to work, or if you find yourself being called to that oil field project, it'll definitely be something that's going to be on the radar for the next 10 to 15 years. It'll definitely be interesting as well to watch Chevron's integration. They integrated well with Noble Energy in the East Med and taking over the Leviathan and Mary B projects. So it'll be very interesting to see how they integrate with the acquisition of Almirada Hess.
Do you think, from on my side of things, I think that's probably going to be a pretty smooth transition that Chevron's going to make down there. I mean, did you see there being any issues with that, or do you think it should be a pretty decent one?
I think it's a great acquisition. I think it'll be a very smooth transition. These tier one operators are great at integrating other tier one operators or tier two, tier three. They're pros at it. That's how they grow. They grow.
It's not their first rodeo.
Yeah, definitely not. Not their first country either. And look what happened at Chevron getting kicked out of Thailand. They drilled in Thailand for 40 years, and the Thai government had to retender and awarded the work to the local operator, kicking Chevron out. So Chevron knows the score of how to navigate these countries, and they'll do very, very well in Guyana. Another interesting market down in that area to watch is Argentina. Argentina has just been desecrated by poor policy over the past 100 years.
Yeah.
And as we see new leadership come in, it'll be interesting to watch how they develop as a juggernaut in that region because they've got a great gas supply and they got great shipping routes up into Europe. So.
Well, with all this focus, we're talking internationally. You are the U.S. manager. We all know about the Permian and the power it plays. Where do you see is like the second best place in the U.S. for focusing on 2024 projects? Where do you think is, besides the Permian, where do you think is tier two, I guess? If Permian's tier one, where's tier two?
Yeah, I could probably zone in on a couple different things here to really make this decision, but just to kind of fly over it, New Mexico has always been a really good place to drill. Unfortunately, they have the most aggressive regulatory body, charging $1,500. I think it's per BTU that's emitted or some figure like that coming up here in 2024. So it'll be interesting to watch kind of how that oil field adheres to these new regulatory bodies. To answer your question directly, Keith, I think that the Marcellus area is going to be hot. I think Wyoming always has consistent drilling, and the North Dakota area has always shown to be very resilient. EQT and what they're doing up in the Marcellus Shale area could really, really have some strong implications for Europe if we're able to get some type of LNG facility or some type of transportation facility. I think really though, if we focus as an industry on taking our waste energy or just our waste products, and we do something with those, I think we could do a lot just with that alone in our own backyard, Keith.
Recently, the administration, even though they might be a little, not try to get too political here, anti-oil and gas, has approved a few pipelines in the Northeast here. Do you think that's enough to get that area going again, or do you think it's just too little, too late kind of deal?
You know, any pipeline's a good pipeline. People don't realize that when pipelines get installed, trucks get off the road. And that means that your children, your grandmothers, that means that people that you love come home every day. And I'm not saying that truck drivers are the ones that cause accidents, that, you know, we all can cause accidents. Less cars on the road is safer for us all. And
Congestion, it's a big deal.
not just that, most of the pipelines in America were built in the 60s and 70s, and most of them were built with what's called Youngstown steel.
We know what you mean.
This steel has a bead on it, and it's eroding. It's eroding water tables. It's eroding, what's your crop. It's really doing some damage, and so these pipelines need to be approved. Warren Buffett and the people that run the trucks and the trains, there's always going to be a displacement. You're always going to displace somebody's market by installing this pipeline. And so you have strong lobbyists that are lobbying against these pipelines. Flat out, there's no better way to transport oil and energy other than pipeline. There's no safer way.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's like, here it is, Warren Buffett, who's, the Oracle of Omaha, very smart guy. And you see him always talking about anti-oil, and really, it's really about anti-pipelines. Why? Because Berkshire Hathaway has the majority of BNSF railroad. And guess what? They're the ones that are sending that oil from North Dakota down to Cushing's and all the other refineries. And no, he doesn't want the pipelines. Just from a business standpoint, he could care less about the safety or the what Indian reservations are being affected by it. That's taking money out of his pocket. But, I felt like a minute ago, I wanted to say that's the crude truth about when you said, hey, adding more pipelines creates more safety on the highways. Yeah. It does make the less congestion, and it does.
It lowers energy costs.
Yeah, and it lowers
creates
energy costs.
Jobs. It creates more certainty and access to other places in the United States that really could use
Keith, you know what else it does? It also lowers our emissions and our carbon monoxide footprint. Is that correct, Keith?
Oh, I hate this topic because CO2 is 0.04% of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's not even top 3.
Yeah.
I get why, anyway,
But if we really
everybody should know that.
if we really talk about what is the number one polluter in all of this, and the number one polluter is your air conditioning unit. And unfortunately, your air conditioning unit here is either running off natural gas or running off the power that's supplied. The air conditioning unit in Iraq is being run off of diesel, and they only have 6 hours of power in Erbil. And so the diesel generators are popping up and powering all of Erbil, Iraq. So you go in and try to supply them a pipeline or supply them a train route to get them. And then you have a diesel mafia that blocks you from doing all of that because you're displacing their market. So we go back to the Warren Buffett and the BNSF. I don't know if you guys have tried to do business with BNSF, but it's very difficult to even get them to return your phone call. So there's a monopoly here and there's blocking that's going on. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that people go home to their families with what they came to work with. And in order to do that, we've got to reduce trucks off road. In order to do that, we need to install more pipelines.
I'm over almost to the thinking that there's such a population growth. There's such a demand growth in energy. We've brought the lower class up to spending. I remember being as a poor farm kid, we didn't have half the things we have now where it seems everyone's got a few TV. We had one tiny TV, right? Everybody has at least a couple TVs in the house. It doesn't matter what class it is. So I'm almost of the thought, there's enough room for BNSF to keep hauling their oil and the pipeline because there's such a growth demand of energy. And I think we all have to start playing in the sandbox a little bit better. And I think that communication, because the only people that are really getting hurt now with the inflation is just regular people trying to make their way, right? And if you lower energy costs, that ultimately is going to fix a lot of these issues we're having. And I'm a true believer of that there's, at this point, enough to go around. Maybe that's naive, maybe that's silly, but I think there's enough demand for oil and gas for a staffing company such as Jelvin. And that should be a great outlook because both need STEP, the railway company for maintaining their lines, a pipeline company for expansion, the midstream. And that's, I think, worldwide, right? Is that the population's growing and their energy demands is growing. We need more energy, not cutting one off, not saying we're going to replace one with the other. We need both. That's why I'm not really against any of the green energy initiatives. If it produces energy, bring it on, because we definitely need more of it.
Well, we've been very successful, NSB Omega, in building some of the largest, mono platforms, TLPs, you name it, whether it's out of Singapore, down in Sealy, up in Borger, Texas, over in Rodeo, California. We've got people everywhere that can execute these projects that are very, very difficult. I know the Willow project is coming up in Alaska. That just got approved. That'll be manufactured down in Sealy as well. We'll be involved with that. So any of these projects that are these major juggernaut projects that you see that you want to go to work for, we probably have a contract with the operator and could get you in to that position. So please go to our website, nsbomega.com. Look at the jobs that are posted there. There's jobs posted all over Newfoundland. I just got back from St. John's. It was the coldest trip I've ever taken in my life. The people that live in St. John's are amazing, hardy people. I've been to Scotland. I've been through some really cold places, but nowhere competes with the wind coming off of the Atlantic Sea in St. John's.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Wow.
I remember talking to you about that when we were scheduling this, and I just felt the cold.
I'm cold sitting here thinking about it.
Hey, I want to switch gears for a minute, and because I had commented on your awesome lapel. If anybody watches my show, I do my best to have a different lapel on, or one of the several. That one's awesome. It's the Star of David, the Jewish star with the Texas flag in there. Obviously, Greg Abbott came across I think last month, saying Texas stands with Israel. Let's talk about that just for a minute, if that's all right, and what it stands for in the group. Because we met at a political deal down in Houston for Lauren Boebert. So I know, we were joking off air about, being pro-American, not trying to go too much into that, but there ain't nothing wrong with it. But back to the star in your lapel. Can we talk about that just real quick, Drew?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ray and I had met at a Lauren Boebert fundraiser down in the Houston area. But if I get back to my lapel pin, I've been to Dachau, I've been to Auschwitz, I've been to these places, I've sat in these cold rooms. I was also fortunate enough to develop the Leviathan and Mary B fields off the coast of Israel, and actually live in Israel for 2 years in Caesarea, Israel. So I'm very partial to the Israeli people. I stand with Israel and the Star of David, and this lapel pin represents Texas standing with the Israeli people and what's going on. We can never forget what happened on October 7th and what's been happening over the past 40 years. And we must stand with the people that stand for righteousness and mark down terrorism.
On a business note there, you mentioned the fields off of Israel. And there's a lot of natural gas there that this does not get any talk about. And it's funny how people want to continue to take Israel when they have some of the largest natural gas reserves in the world. And yet that's probably the main reason, no different than why Ukraine was invaded in Russia, because of their natural gas or their oil fields that they have there. And Guyana as well with Venezuela right now that we talked about a little while ago. So I'm glad you brought up those fields in Israel, because nobody talks about those, because those are offshore, if I'm correct, right? Yeah. And the rumor I keep hearing, and you might be able to do, as I hear, there's a ton of oil or natural gas under their feet all around Israel, but they just won't drill on land.
So the pore pressures down in the Mediterranean are difficult. So the Levant Basin runs from Eni's discovery in Egypt all the way up to Cyprus. Total and Exxon have made discoveries up in the island of Cyprus. Next will be Turkey once they can get their political situation underway. So to actually talk about the volumes of gas, we found, I think, 3.1 TCF, which is enough. That's trillion cubic feet. So that's enough gas in just the Leviathan discovery in Israel for about 30 years. So we made them energy independent for 30 years. And I'm actually happy to promote or state that X-Pro actually still has that work, and my bucking unit is still in the Haifa port, turning out connections even as this war rages on.
You know, Drew, again, you know, kind of like what we talked about. It's like God knows what conversations you had with him, with Mr. Stelter here. I was very impressed with that, and your fiance about what you wanted to do. But to be in the staffing industry now, to be putting people in jobs, literally in places that you have been, what a better person to talk to than you going, you want to know what's going on out there? I'll give you the crude truth. That is obviously my show is called. So I think it's so cool of a new position that you're in, and you've been there not the most amount of time yet, but you're already doing things and just thriving out there. So I think this was just such a, lack of better words, match made to heaven for you to be where you're at now, just because of your own darn experience, Drew.
I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm coming on about 90 days, but I feel like I've been in the recruiting staffing industry my whole life. I really enjoy helping people and getting them placed so that they can go to work and show their skills and really show the world what the energy industry can do and what we can do with, you know, I'm just a farm guy from Oregon. I raise Christmas trees. And to think that I had made a difference all over the world is shocking and quite humbling to me. And man, I couldn't have done it without great support of friends like Mr. Stelter here. And
I did not pay them to keep saying that.
his checks in the mail.
It is a great
I pay
feeling
monthly.
helping somebody find a job. Like I did.
It's a lot of fun.
That
Yeah.
Pay It Forward Friday, and I had some great stories from that. And I've had people come up, man, you helped me get a job. And sometimes it was so long ago where I was like,
And who are you again?
sorry, how did I? So it's,
Well,
but-
you know, the new thing is it's to say good to see you. That's the new thing to say, because whether or not you've seen them before, you never seen them before,
I'm gonna have to.
good to see you. It's like, you know, because like when we talked on the phone a couple of weeks back, and it was like we met, it's like, oh my God, yes we did, and you know, it changed the whole conversation that quick. But it's like that's what I saw. I met new people a couple of weeks ago. It's like good to see you, and I'm like, never met you, but I get it. So it's like to see why it is.
Or recognize you from LinkedIn. It's big.
You are pretty.
I
popular. That's why you're
went to a
here.
company Christmas party, and we had a new salesman, and he's like, guy's name's Barney. Hey, Barney, how's it going? He's like, Keith, I want to thank you. You helped me get this job. And I was like, what? And he's like, you commented who to talk to when I was looking for a job, and that guy hired me. And I was like, oh, okay, right on. Sounds great.
Well, you know, Keith, again, I want to say thank you to you for coming on and co-hosting.
Thank you for
Because
having me.
Obviously, you two are you know, y'all been friends for a long time. And when Drew said, hey, you know, when I asked Drew to come on and he actually said yes, I was like, Keith, come on. So for everybody out there that doesn't know you, you know, how can they find you? How can they find American Safety Services?
Yes, sir. American Safety Services, a great place in the Permian. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm sure I've come up in your feed. I am annoying that way. I tried not to be, but it sure has happened. You can get a hold of me, Keith Stelter. Search it on LinkedIn. I will come up. We're connected probably by a second connection.
Probably his dance videos.
That's
Yeah,
all.
he's probably-
Yes,
his dance
the
moves are probably-
videos those ones are great. Yes, I look like the guy doing the great dance, and everyone
By the
tags
way,
me.
I do like the cowboy hat today. For our listeners, Keith came in with a nice black velvet. You can tell it's winter time, and unlike Shinny Chesney. But no, I mean, so it looks very nice. Solid. And speaking of your kicks, Drew, and I know nobody can see these, but I'm rocking up the North Carolina blue Nikes today, and it's there and looking very.
I'd like to give a quick shout out to Raj's Fashion in Bangkok, Thailand, off Soy 6. Man, I tell you, Raj's Fashion, Dane and Bobby, they keep you looking fresh. You know, it's got to be the wide lapel. You know, there's certain things that just have to be. So
No, you're looking.
they don't make cowboy hats yet, Keith. But hey, Dane, Bobby, if you're listening, check it out.
Well, Drew, again, I cannot thank you enough for coming on, talking about NSB Omega. If you can, you know, for individuals out there that, you know, haven't heard of you, and again, you know, I did you a disservice by saying, you know, people across the state, people across the world do know you. and your face and your name, but how can people get a hold of you, especially individuals that are looking to get placed in new careers?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on today. It's been just an honor, Ray, to come up here and into the Dallas Fort Worth market. I haven't been up here in a while, so great to see some of the faces here in the Dallas area. To answer your question directly, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't do social media other than LinkedIn, so you can't find me on Facebook or TikTok or any of those things. But LinkedIn, you can find me at nsbomega.com, where our software is. You can upload and make yourself a portal there. And the best way to do it is just to ping me that you've uploaded your resume and the type of work that you're looking for, and I'll have a conversation with you, and we'll start to go to work for you.
Oh man! Well, guys, so thank y'all so much for coming in. Yes,
I know we're gone long, but I gotta ask you: are you still working with that great group that you were helping some folks who may have been in trouble before, and you helped get them off the? I think it'd be doing a disservice if you are still working with that group to not mention it a little bit. If your time with them has passed, I'm sure they could edit this last bit out, but I always liked the little work you did with that group, if you can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to do philanthropy work. I don't really talk about it much publicly, but since you brought it up, Keith, I'll
I just want to demonstrate what a good human being this guy is.
I have a strong pull to helping convicts and helping them once they come out of incarceration. And so I work as a volunteer for an organization out of Las Vegas called Hope for Prisoners. And we have an 18-month program. Once the prisoner is selected for the program and he's coming out of incarceration for 20 plus years, I think it is, he gets put into an 18-month program. And that 18-month program helps him get driver's license, helps him find a job, really just kind of helps him integrate back into society. Take, for example, this gentleman doesn't even know what an iPhone is because he's been incarcerated so long. So it's just helping him with what would be a simple question for you and I, but it's very difficult for him. It's hard for him to get his driver's license, find reasonable housing as a felon. So it's in my heart to come alongside of these gentlemen. I work with usually one or two individuals every 18 months, and we graduate them into a wonderful life. I just graduated my second prisoner. He's a welder for the F1 racetrack up in Las Vegas, and is the top-rated union welder in.
Well, he was definitely not the guy that welded that manhole cover down.
No, he's the railing only. Let's clarify. It was not the manhole cover. But yeah, that's a little bit about my philanthropy work, and if you'd like to get involved, there's lots of write-ups. We just did 101 days of Christmas where we pulled all of the prisoners out and allowed them time with their families in a safe environment. So we do all kinds of different programs. I hope to bring this program down to Texas as well, as it's currently just based in Las Vegas under John Ponder. So yeah, if you're interested in getting involved with Hope, you can become a mentor by going to their website, hopeforprisoners.com, and you can apply to be a mentor there and give back to your community.
That's awesome. I didn't know you did that. That's really cool.
I figured it was worth noting.
Thanks, buddy.
Guys, I cannot thank y'all enough for coming on again. And Drew, you are just in so many different things, from Israel to helping out, individuals here in America that have been incarcerated, to people finding the jobs, and like you said, putting food on the table. Keith, thank you for co-hosting with me today.
Hopefully I did it right and didn't embarrass myself and added you a click or two at the same time. Is that what it's about?
It is. Well, to all my listeners and to all the people that got to watch this episode, thank you as always for tuning in to another episode, and we will see you again on another episode of The Crude Truth.
Because that is the crude truth.
Again, thank you to our sponsors, LFS Chemistry, NAPE Expo, Air Compressor Solutions, Exec Crew, Oil and Gas Workers Association, Pecos Country Operating.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.